Would you rather have to dress all in bright orange or all in lime green for the rest of your life?
Ooh, that's good.
I'd go bright orange.
Would you?
Yeah, because
You
then
could go to prison and do that, though.
That's true. But then you don't risk getting shot by a hunter randomly.
Yeah, I'm gonna say lime green because then it wouldn't look like.
In a lime green, it looks like I was just in like a Volkswagen Beetle video shoot or something, and that's not a good
I've
thing.
always thought that about you.
Yeah. Would you rather slowly walk across red hot coals or put your hand on a hot iron for 10 seconds? They've proven
That you can do it.
that this is doable. Nobody.
Nobody. You're not using a hand again.
No, you're not putting a hand. Why?
Yeah.
Once again, not even a question. Whoa.
Good height on that one.
Yeah, that was good height.
Would you rather be able to run as fast as a cheetah or fly, but only as fast as a tortoise? It's a good question. So, okay.
Good question. Tortoises don't move very fast.
They don't, but you can fly. So
You
you can
can
be
fly.
like 100 feet above.
Just over things
Just
or people in
barely-
large crowds.
It'd be really awkward as if like you wanted to get away from somebody. See you later.
It's like that awkward conversation in the lobby
Yeah.
of the church, and then you just float above the church and you move
Right.
at like a
And then-
tortoise's pace across.
We can still see you, Greg.
You're not that far. You're gonna land right over there. I've walked there. I'm waiting for you.
Wait, it's
right
like
where you land.
Waiting for a hot air balloon
I'm
to
gonna
land.
go run with Cheetah.
I am too.
Fastest cheetah.
Yeah, about 60 miles an
Yeah.
hour.
Those are dumb. So we're in this series, Would You Rather? And so just like we did last week, I'm going to give you guys just a couple Would You Rather scenarios to answer amongst yourselves. So here's the first one. Would you rather never be able to feel any emotion or never be able to show any emotion? Tell your neighbor. Feel any emotion or show any emotion? It's really quiet out there for some reason with this one. There's actually someone who can't do either. It's called the man. So, yeah. Solidarity, my brothers. Solidarity. All right, one more. Would you rather coffee be the only beverage you could drink for the rest of your life or never be able to drink coffee again? Ooh, this is tough. This is tough for me. Where my fellow coffee addicts at, right? I think I'd go with coffee. There's water in there, right? I can survive with just coffee. I could not go without coffee. But I will say this. So I got a gift box this week in the mail, unbeknownst to me, from Starbucks, the corporation. True story. Anyone else get a gift box from Starbucks? No. Okay, so in this gift box was a holiday cup, a $10 gift card, a knit sleeve for your coffee, and a note that said, "Thank you for being a great customer." And I read this and I was like, I don't know if I should be flattered or check myself into rehab. Because if Starbucks is sending me a gift box in the mail, people, I got problems, y'all. I have serious issues. Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but Jesus actually gives us quite a few would you rather scenarios. Now, he doesn't overtly ask the question, but in his most famous sermon ever, in Matthew 5, 6, and 7, what is called the Sermon on the Mount, he presents two different ways to live. He presents a way to live for his kingdom or our kingdom, to live in his world or our world, to do things his way or our way. And he kind of paints this picture of would you rather. And this is what we talked about last week. We answered the question, would you rather take the narrow road that leads to life or the wide road that leads to destruction? And this week we're going to continue on with this would you rather question. Would you rather have treasure here or treasure there? So let's dive in. We're going to be in Matthew 6, starting with verse 19. If you want to, you can open up your digital Bible. If you have a paper Bible, there's maybe one of you, you can open up your Bible, and we'll have the Sky Bible up here for you to track along with us. So, verse 19. Don't store up treasures here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them. And just pause real quick. Why does he say where moths can eat them and rust destroys them? At this time, first century Jews, what was a treasure to them were fancy cloths and metals. So not much has changed. We still like our fancy cloths and shiny metals, do we not? So he's saying don't store up treasures here on earth where moths eat them, rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven, where moths and rust cannot destroy, and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. Your eye is like a lamp. that provides light for your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is filled with light. But when your eye is unhealthy, your whole body is filled with darkness. And if the light you think you have is actually darkness, how deep that darkness is. No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Now, as I just finished up this passage, some of you just coiled up like a spring because you're like, oh, here we go. Money talk at church. I knew I should have slept in. I knew I should have stayed at Starbucks. Some of you are so tense. It's like I just told you there was a snake underneath your chair, right? Now, would you rather have a snake under your chair or a spider? I'd take snake all day. I could stomp on a spider. Snake? Well, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Okay, anyways. How many of you just looked under your chair, though, just to double check there was nothing under there? Here's the thing. I want you to, before you tense up with this money topic, I want you to hold your horses here for a second. Because yes, this verse does talk about money. And yes, this verse does talk about treasure. But if you were to do a double take on this verse, what you would actually realize is this isn't really a passage about money. This is a passage about what controls your life. Or actually, maybe even a little bit more clearly, this is a passage about what controls your heart. And what controls your heart is what controls your life. Now, I don't know if you know this or not. This is one of the characteristics about God that's true of him. In Exodus 20, it says that God is a jealous God. Now, when we think about jealousy, right, we think about that with like a bitter ex-girlfriend or a bitter ex or whatever, right, who's trying to get after you. Think of it like a spouse, right, who's mad that maybe their spouse is at somebody else's house. Why would they be mad? Well, they'd be mad because their spouse should only have eyes for them, right? Their spouse should only have affection for them. Their spouse should only spend their time with them, not with the other person. So in a perfect way, God is not jealous because he wants something from you. God is not jealous because he needs something from you. God is jealous because we're not giving him his due. We're not giving to him what is rightfully his. You see, our heart and our affection rightly belong to God. And especially, one, because he's a creator, but especially when you realize what he's done for us. How he sent his son Jesus to die for us, right? And because he did that, how could you not give him your undivided attention, your undivided affection, your love, right? Your commitment to him because of all that he's done for us. But so often what happens is we easily find ourselves leaving God at home while we carouse the streets, flirting with the other woman. And the other woman, 9 out of 10 times, is money. It's stuff. It's treasure. We value this over God. And this is the essence of what Jesus is talking about here in Matthew 6. He's saying, don't give your heart to money. Don't give your heart to treasure here. Don't give your heart to stuff when your heart rightly belongs to your Father in heaven. And if you were to do a self-examination, if you want to know where your heart is, what's interesting about money is a very powerful revealer, isn't it? Money will show you exactly where your heart is. It'll show you what you're most passionate about. It'll show you what you think the most about. It'll show you what you care about. It'll show you what you're most invested in. And so if you want to reveal to yourself what you're most interested in, where your heart's at, then follow the money. Look where you spend your money. Look where you put your money. And sadly for many of us, if we were to really do that this morning, if we were really just evaluate and follow the money, sadly we would see, me included, 9 out of 10 times more than I'd like to admit as a pastor, that our treasure and our stuff is here and not there. And so here's what I want to do this morning. It's very simple, almost like an old-fashioned Bible study. I want to work this passage backwards. We're going to start with the last verse and work ourselves right back to the first verse that we read. And we're going to ask ourselves this would you rather question. Do we want our stuff, our treasure here, or do we want it there? So we're going to jump back into verse 24. Let me read it again. Matthew 6:24. No one can serve two masters. For you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Now, whenever we talk about money in church or whenever we look at this passage right here that I just read, we look at this verse and we make this false assumption. And we make this assumption that Jesus is saying that money is bad, that money's a bad thing. So often we have this belief that money is evil, right? We'll say the love of money or money is evil, but it's really the love of money. It's when money takes a place on our heart that it's not supposed to take. But having money is not a bad thing. Having stuff's not a bad thing. I'm glad that all of you showed up to church today wearing stuff we call clothing. Because if you didn't, we would have called the cops on you, right? So stuff isn't bad. Jesus isn't saying you can't serve God and have money. He's saying you can't serve God and be a slave to money. And there is a huge difference. So what he's essentially saying is money is a terrible master, but it's a good slave if you can rule over it. Well, what's that mean? You have the proper perspective of what it is. You have the proper perspective of how it should be used, that you leverage it well, that you're a good steward, that you understand that it's all God's in the first place, that even your ability to earn came from God. And so if you have the proper perspective that money is your slave, it's your tool, that you're leveraging it for God's kingdom, then it's a good thing. Not only is it a good thing, I hope you have more of it. I hope you have a ton of it, because that's a healthy way to see it. But more often than not, the opposite is what comes true. Money becomes our master. It takes a position on the throne of our heart that it was never intended to take. And instead of now serving God or doing things ultimately for God, we find ourselves doing things for money, to get more money. We crave it. We think about it. We dream about it. It becomes our security. It becomes our identity. And when this happens, when money becomes the central figure in our life, all of our life and our decisions get boiled down to money over God. Well, where's the money at? Where are the finances at? Right? We pick our homes and our neighborhoods about money. We pick our schools or what university, and we're looking at it through the lens of money, or how much money can I make? We even look at sometimes our relationships or our friendships. We reduce those to money. Right? There's some gold diggers out there, y'all. Right? We make it about money. How many jobs where there might have been a better job, or a job that was more suited for you, or a job that was in line with your calling, but you took a different job. Why? Because it had more money. And you hate it. You don't like it. You regret it. But we do it because that's where the money is. And I couldn't help but think, I was having lunch with a friend this week, and he was like, how many callings have been missed? How many dreams have not been fulfilled because someone picked money over risk? Money over God's will, right? How many decisions do we make with money being the central focus instead of God? And when we make our decisions about money over God, it is a master, and it's a terrible master, because usually what happens is it will lead to bad and destructive things in our life, because money has lots of empty promises attached to it, but it can't do what it says it'll do. And so if we continue to walk this verse back, look at what Jesus tells us as to why money is so destructive when it masters our heart. Verse 22, your eye is like a lamp that provides light for your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is filled with light. But when your eye is unhealthy, your whole body is filled with darkness. And if the light you think you have is actually darkness, how deep that darkness is. Now, let's be honest here for a second. You read this passage in between kind of two little verses about money. Jesus gets a little weird here, doesn't he? Jesus gets a little dark, right? He's talking about eyeballs and darkness in our souls, right? What is he talking about? How does money equal darkness in our body? But if you were to examine this verse, what he's actually saying is quite simple. He's saying if you view your life through the lens of money, then in turn, money will corrupt every aspect of your life. If money is the only way you see the world, if money is the only way you see your job, if money is the only way you see your relationships, then money, being a terrible master, will corrupt every aspect of your life. Now think about this. How many times have friendships been ruined over money? How many marriages have been destroyed over money? How many character or reputations have been destroyed over money? How many, whatever, insert the blank, fill in the blank, right? How many of anything have been ruined because we've been making money the focal point for how we live our life instead of God? And sadly, maybe you've seen this in your own life. In certain areas of your life, when we look at things through the lens of money, we see that even personally, it brings some gross stuff some stuff about ourselves that we really don't like. We start to look at others as a way to have money, a way to get money, a way to leverage money. You see families, they'll start to fight over inheritances, over land deals, right? You've always got that friend who forgets their wallet every time you're out to lunch. And you're like beginning to question their motivation or their intention or their relationship with you. It gets weird, right? We begin to question that. If somebody owes you money, you feel entitled to it. You're mad. They better pay me ASAP. They owe me. The debt that they have to me is not good. If you owe someone money, I'll get to it when I get to it. Right? It's always completely justified. The debt you have is good debt. It makes sense. You had to have it. You had to have whatever fill in the blank to get the debt. But when we see debt in someone else, we're always a little judgy, aren't we? We're so quick to call out the greed we see in corporations or in the government or in politicians or in churches or in other people, but we can't see the greed in ourselves. And when we do have greed, what do we say? We rationalize it and we say, we're just being prudent. We're just being wise. I'm not being greedy. It's dumb for me not to have more and more and more and more and more at the cost of anyone else. I have to do this. And how often do we do dishonest things? Little white lies, compromise our integrity, and justify it because it's our money. Even say things like, God would want me to have more of it. And we do that all the time, don't we? And then when we look at other people and we look at the way they use money or the way they spend their money, we judge them, don't we? We compare ourselves to them. We get mad at them. We don't like it if they have something we don't have, or we assume the worst about them. Now, I don't know if you guys saw, it probably took off a few months ago, this Instagram feed called Preachers and Sneakers. Now, some of you may know what I'm talking about. Others of you might not have any clue. And it's just an Instagram feed, and it's a guy who decided to troll a bunch of pastors by taking pictures of these pastors wearing nice sneakers, expensive sneakers, and posting them on this website, and then putting them on blast for having nice sneakers. Now, if you were to read the comments, for real, about these pastors, most of which I don't know these pastors, I know one of them, but if you were to read the comments about these pastors wearing nice sneakers, you'd think they murdered someone. For real, I'm not even exaggerating. The stuff that they say about these pastors is shocking. Now, whether you'd spend money to buy nice sneakers is irrelevant to the fact that you'd think somebody is a bad person for having them. And I just have to say this. Isn't what we spend our money on very subjective anyways, as it pertains to nice things? Don't some of us like some nice things, and then we justify the nice things that we like compared to what somebody else likes? But we're so quick to get snarky about somebody liking something, but then if we were to look at ourselves, if I were to go through every single person's spending habits, I guarantee we could find something that you spent money on that somebody else would say was excessive. Oh, you went to Starbucks. That was $2.35. You could have went to Mobile for 60 cents. You could have got a coffee at Mobile for 60 cents. Oh, better yet, you could have brewed coffee at home. Oh, you're remodeling your house. You had to put in Cambria, for your countertops? You could have put in granite. You didn't have to put in granite. You could have put in a laminate. That's just being excessive. Oh, your sports coat. You had to go to Macy's to buy a sports coat. You could have went to H&M. You could have went to Salvation Army and got a sports coat. You're being wasteful with your money. Oh, your socks. You have to have fancy socks, right? You can't buy the white crap Hanes socks. You got to have gold toe. You got to have them. You got to spend that extra $1.25 on your gold toe socks. How dare you? Here's the point, is if you start looking at anybody's spending habits, you might find something that you don't agree with. You just would. As a matter of fact, I'm wearing these shoes right now. Oh, pants are a little too tight. Can't get my legs up there, guys. Sorry. All right, so I'm wearing these brown shoes. These shoes aren't the cheapest pair of shoes in the world. But you look at them, they're just brown shoes, right? I'm not going to end up on some pastor's blog for wearing these brown shoes because they're not flashy and no one really knows what they are and no one really even cares. And if you were to judge me and judge the content of my character because I have a nice pair of shoes that you wouldn't buy, that says way more about your heart than it does mine. It says way more about the way you see money versus the way I see money. And this is the essence of what Jesus is getting at here. This isn't about preachers and sneakers. I don't even know these guys. I'm not trying to defend them, but assuming they get their money by honest means, All right, let's assume that they did. Why do we care how they spend their money? Why? And to call their character into question because they like shoes is ridiculous. And so here's the thing. When we're angry about how other people spend their money, or we're always trying to keep up with the Joneses, or we're always comparing ourselves to other people, it's just showing that money has an unhealthy role in our lives. That money is corrupting the way we see things. Because if you're allowing money to be the filter in which you see other people, that's doing something bad. That's the darkness in our heart that Jesus was talking about. It's leading to things like envy and greed and anger and judgment and comparison to be the filter. And when you see that in yourself, this is an indication that you need to do a heart check, not on some other pastor, not on some church, not on some other person, not on your neighbors, not on the bank. You need to do a heart check on yourself. Because listen, this is what's true here. It's always good to question yourself as you see money. It's always good to question how you steward your resources. It's always good to question how you're spending it, how you're saving it, what you're doing with it. And God would ask us, that's why this verse is here. God's asking us to do that, to question ourselves so that we see things through the lens of Jesus and not the lens of money. Because if you see things through the lens of money, that's the difference between living in the light versus living in the darkness. Money has a way of corrupting everything, even something as simple as a relationship we have with someone else. And so let's chase this verse all the way back to the beginning, to see maybe money the way that Jesus sees it, the way that Jesus would want us to see it. Matthew 6, verse 19. Don't store up treasures here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven where moths and rust cannot destroy and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. So here we are back at the beginning. And is Jesus saying then in this passage that having a 401k is a bad thing? Is he saying in this passage that if you drive a nice car, it's a bad thing? Is he saying that if you drive a crap car right now, you're going to have a Rolls Royce in heaven? Is that the essence of this passage? Don't have nice stuff now so you can have nice stuff in heaven? I don't think so. Because if that was the motivation of this passage, then isn't that playing into what's already broken about our view with money in the first place? That it's about us and our reward? No, to understand what Jesus is talking about, we have to understand what treasure in heaven actually is. Now, can there be some type of material award in heaven? Sure, of course there can be. But is that the treasure that Jesus is talking about? I don't think so. When Jesus is talking about treasure in heaven, what he's talking about and what he is saying is real treasure is that which will last forever. Like your earthly treasure, the stuff you store here, right? He makes a very strong point to say that rust will decay it, that moss will eat it. It won't last. So true treasure is that which will last for all of eternity. So what are things that will last forever? What are things that we know will be in heaven? Well, the first thing that we know will be in heaven is good works. Do you know your good works will last forever? The good you do for God will last for all of eternity. You see, 1 Corinthians 3 says our works will be tested by fire, and that which is good will last. 2 Corinthians 9:9 says our good deeds will be remembered and last forever, which means anything you do for Jesus, anything good you do for someone else, you give a cup of cold water in Jesus' name, those good works will last for all of time. That is a treasure you can have in heaven. Well, what's something else that lasts forever? Our memories. Do you know your memory lasts forever? Now, sometimes we have this weird view of heaven where we think of ourselves like a computer system, and when we get to heaven, we're like wiped and then rebooted, as if we forget everything that happened on earth, right? It's like, who am I? Where am I? Who are you? Nice to meet you, Jesus. Nice place you have here. right? Like we're completely forget everything. No. The Bible's really clear in lots of different instances. Luke 16, especially if you were here a few weeks ago, it was really clear that in the afterlife, we have memories. We remember what happened here. You'll remember your relationship with God. You'll remember your relationship with others. Now, where this gets a little weird for us is we know that there's no pain in heaven. So when we say, well, okay, if there's memories in heaven, does that mean I'll remember my pain? Well, I think a better way to think about it is that we will have memories and our pain will be redeemed. So think of it through the lens of Jesus. Jesus has his scars in heaven. Did you know that? Jesus' wounds from the cross are in heaven. Well, they're a memory, right? It's a memory of what he did. It's a painful memory, but we won't see it through the lens of pain. It's a redeemed memory. It's a scar, which means it's healed. We'll see it in light of the good that he did, not in light of the bad that happened to him. Thus, all of our memories will be redeemed, and this will be true of your memories as well. Revelation says that when we get to heaven, God will wipe every tear from all of our eyes, which is to say, all of what was bad in your life, all of which was pain, will be redeemed. It'll be made right. Nothing broken will be broken anymore. You'll see it only through the lens of what's good. And that's amazing. And so when we get to heaven, you're going to want some awesome memories to take with you. Memories of living a life of impact. Memories of adventure. Memories of doing life together with people. Of stepping out in faith, right? Think of like when you're maybe going back into a reunion or something, you see some of your old high school buddies. When you see your old high school buddies, don't you exaggerate how fun the good old times were? Everything's so exaggerated for how fun and great it was. You don't remember anything bad, right? You just only remember the good things. Well, this is like heaven on steroids. It'll be a perfected version of this. But if you're like hanging out with the high school buddies and you weren't a part of the fun, you always feel like the third wheel, right? Do you want to jump in? I don't remember that, or I missed out on that. And in the same way, I don't want you to miss out in heaven on the fun of celebrating all these memories from leveraging our life for something bigger than ourselves. Because you get to take your memories to heaven. And lastly, we know that souls go to heaven. Your soul goes to heaven. My soul goes to heaven. Other people's souls go to heaven. Souls go to heaven. Souls will last for eternity. And this is why Jesus, in maybe one of his strongest statements in the entire Gospels, he says, what good is it for a man or a person to gain the whole world but forfeit their soul? Why would that be such a strong statement? Because to gain the world would be to gain treasure here that won't last. And if you're trading your soul for stuff or status or power or money, that's a terrible trade. Jesus is saying, don't do that. That's the worst trade you could make because your soul will last, which means every single person you lock eyes with has a soul that will last. And every single person you lock eyes with is a treasure to God. He died for that soul to be with him. So why is our main, you better get that. Somebody's calling you, right? I'm sorry, I got ADD, people. I don't know what you want from me here. Gosh. All right, focus. Back. Okay, I'm in the moment again. What was our main mission given to us from Jesus? Right? The Great Commission, to go into the world. So why? So people know about Jesus. Why? Because our souls last for eternity. So our main mission is about getting souls in heaven. And so if good works, memories, and souls last forever, then what do you think treasure in heaven is? Well, simply having as many good works and great memories and your friends and family members with you in heaven as possible. And if you have a lot of those, you will be very rich in heaven. Now, the irony of this is if money sits on the throne of your heart, it causes bad works, creates sour memories, damages relationships, and hurts our soul. It does the exact opposite of what we actually want and what God actually wants for us. So once again, Self-examination. What do you do if money is sitting on the throne of your heart? Well, let me read one more verse that parallels Matthew 6 that we've been reading out of Luke 12. This is also Jesus speaking. And you'll notice it's very similar with one caveat. So Luke 12, verse 33. Sell your possessions and give to those in need. This will store up treasure for you in heaven. And the purses of heaven never get old or develop holes. Your treasure will be safe. No thief can steal it. No moth can destroy it. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. So Jesus says, now he's giving us a very simple instruction. The Bible's very clear. Sometimes the Bible's not clear. This is pretty clear. He is saying that the way to store treasure there is to give stuff away here. Let me make sure, just because, in case we're confused, Jesus, really clear, if you want treasure upstairs, you give away stuff down here. You give away stuff now. And why would he tell us to give it away? Well, there's lots of different reasons, but think of it through this lens. When something has a hold on you, anything, when fear has a hold on you, if grief has a hold on you, anxiety has a hold on you, an addiction has a hold on you, material things have a hold on you, what should you do with it? You give it away. You let it go. Now, just to give it to the air, take it, right? What's that going to do for you? No, you give it to God. Why do you give it to God? Because he's the only one who can do something with it. So when you give your money to God, you're saying, this doesn't have control on me anymore. I'm going to liberate my heart from this taking a throne in my life that it doesn't deserve to have. I'm going to liberate myself and give it to you. And God, you can take this, and you're the only one who can do something with it. God, you can take my treasure here and somehow supernaturally convert it to treasure there. You can use what I have here to make sure that good works happen, that great memories happen, and you can use my stuff here to get souls up there. And that's why we give. And then Jesus says there's this shift that happens in our heart. This shift happens when we start to store our treasures in heaven, when we have a heavenly perspective. And the shift is that our heart, instead of making money its home and money its God, it makes heaven its home. Do you see that the flaw in our thinking that makes it so hard to have a kingdom mindset with money is that we forget that we're not home here. The reason we're so obsessed with here is because many of us think here is all we have. But you're not home here. This is temporary. You get a few years on this planet, and then you get eternity. Right? This is not your home, people. Jesus is your home. Heaven is your home. That's where you're going to go for the rest of time. And so don't lose sight of what home actually is. Invest in your real home. And we say right here on earth all the time, home's an investment, right? Invest in your home. It'll go up in value unless you live in Rockford, right? Whatever. So it's like we invest in our homes because we want to get more out of it when we put stuff into it. Well, how much more then should we invest in heaven if heaven is our home? And think of it like owning any other equity or stock. If you own Apple, right? You're obsessed with Apple. You're like, I love Apple products. You're reading Apple News. You're looking at profit statements because you own equity in it. Well, in the same way, if heaven is your home and you're investing in there, you have your equity in heaven, you pay attention to it. You care about it. That's where your heart's at. That's what you're obsessed with. That's what's going to come out of your mouth. That's where you're going to leverage your money because you know that's your home. And this is so important to understand this because so often we reduce this in churches to think, well, Jesus, church just wants my money. That is not true, okay? Jesus doesn't want your money. He doesn't need your money, okay? He owns it all in the first place. If you even think it's your money, try to figure out how you're going to take it with you when you die, right? It's that old adage, there will not be a U-Haul following your hearse to the cemetery. You can't take it with you. It ain't yours anyways. It's such a myth. But God, he owns it all in the first place. It's all his. So what is he doing when he says give? What is he doing when he says leverage your stuff here for there? Well, he's inviting us in. He's giving us an IPO into heaven. He's saying, I want you to be invested in this, to have some ownership in this, because if you have ownership in this thing's going to pay off in the end. Like if you owned a business and a company or whatever, and you just knew this thing was hot, it's going to take off. You're going to be bankrolling it, right? You're going to make a ton of money. You'd be like, dude, friends, family, you got to get in on this. This thing's going to be a success. You have to be a part of it. You're not asking them to be a part of it because you need or want their money. You're asking them to be a part of it because you want to share it with those you love. And this is what Jesus is doing. He's like, I want you to have a piece of heaven. I want you to share I want you to share in good works. I want you to share in these memories. I want you to share in these souls. I want you to know that you played a part in it, that you got stake in it. And that's why Jesus says, leverage as much as you can here to store up treasure there. Because when you get there, how awesome would it be for somebody to come up to you, like, hey, you don't know who I am. You don't know me. I was a 16-year-old kid, and I showed up at youth group at State Line Church, and I was so lost and depressed and suicidal. But I found Jesus, and he changed my life around. And because Jesus changed my life around, I was able to go and do blank, blank, blank. And so thank you for giving to State Line Church, because you don't know me, but I'm here because you invested down there. Like you because of your investment, you made an impact in my life. How awesome. All these stories of how you played a part. Hey, when you gave to that missions drive that Lennox did to take some toiletries to Honduras. I mean, it was a stick of toothpaste. But for me, I looked at that toothpaste and I realized, wow, if people in a country far away actually care about me, then maybe there is a God that cares. And it started a faith journey for me where I surrendered my life to Jesus. And I'm here now because you brought a stick of toothpaste. You say, well, that's ridiculous. No, it's not. That's how this works. You know, last Christmas, if you were here, we did this fundraiser where we bought bikes for India. I'll show you a couple pictures. They were actually, Eric sent me these. This is a woman pastor. That's the bike, one of the bikes we bought. And she's on this bike. And the reason we bought these bikes, and you can just scroll through them, is these were for missionaries. These are for people who graduate from this Bible college program, and they get literally three things when they graduate from this program in India. They get a bike, a Bible, and a bongo, and they're told to go plant a church. How awesome is that? Right? And so we had this idea, like, well, what if we helped them buy bikes? $250. And so for anyone who gave to that, just know these are the bikes. This is a group of pastors. This is a man praying over female pastors, by the way. This is just even cooler. Now those ladies are going to get on those bikes. And they're going to travel India with a bongo and a Bible. I don't know. And they're going to preach about the good news of Jesus. And one day, you're going to get to heaven. And somebody's going to say, hey, Christmas 2018, you gave $250 towards a bike. And because you did, some lady came pedaling up to me on the streets of Calcutta and told me about the love of Jesus. And my soul is here now because you were willing to invest. Yeah, it's awesome. And this is why I will never apologize for asking you to live generous. We just won't do it because we really believe in this thing. And we want to leverage all we have here to give people the opportunity to know the name of Jesus so we can meet them up there. I've said this before, but it's so true. Generosity is trading stuff for stories. And stuff doesn't last, but stories sure do. And when we get to heaven, we want to hear as many stories and great memories and good works as possible. So the question is really yours because God's entrusted you with some stuff. So what would you rather do? Would you rather store all your treasure here where rust and moss and thieves will come after it? Or store your treasure there where there are good works, great memories, and souls that are brought to our Father? Let me pray. Jesus, And we're so grateful that first of all, we are so blessed financially in this country, Lord. It'd just be foolish for me not to say thank you, Lord. We have so much. We really do. And so thank you for entrusting everyone in this room with stuff. Lots of stuff, more stuff than we need. And just speak to our hearts about what it means to leverage our stuff here for your kingdom up there, God. And give us a kingdom mindset in this room right now. In the name of Jesus, I pray, amen. Here's how I want to end this morning. Real simple. Don't worry, I'm not taking an offering for our church. So if you're like, oh, here we go, he's going to take, no. But I am going to ask you to give. Nothing for State Line. I want to unpack our Christmas giving initiatives like we did last year. We have 3 things that I think we can do to make an impact in our community and to help some people and show them the love of Jesus Christ. And the first one is this. We did this last year. We're doing it again this year. We have 85 foster kids that need Christmas given to them. They call it Adopt an Angel. That's bad theology. They're not angels. They're just kids. But regardless, we didn't come up with that name. There are some cards right out these doors. We only have 85. 85, and you'll notice on there, it's their name, their age, and like 3 or 4 things that they want for Christmas. And these, like I said, these are kids in our local community for foster care. And you know what's funny, by the way? We got 85, and they were like, hey, last year you did 60. Do you think you could do 85? I was like, can you give me like 285? Like, give me all of them. And they're like, oh, well, that's all we have. I was like, you don't understand. The people of State Line will take these. I'm assuming they're going to be gone by the end of the service. So if you come to 10:45, too bad, right? The suckers. So that's awesome. So we have 85 kids. And here's what I would say. And we did this last year. We'll do it again. Buy those things for them. And then you write a note in there. Put a note of encouragement and let these kids know that there's a church that's thinking about them, that's praying for them, and that there's a God out there who knows them by name, who created them. So that's 1. 2, next thing we have this opportunity to do is, for those of you who don't know, Brent Pettenberg, he does announcements a lot. He's the CEO of the Y. We have a great partnership with the Y, great partnership with Youth for Christ. And so Brent had this really cool idea to do a basketball drive. They have hundreds of kids that come and play basketball in the Y every single week. And that's, for a lot of these kids, the Y is like a second home, truthfully. And so he had this idea, what if we did a basketball drive and gave each kid their own basketball and then use that as an opportunity to build a relationship with them, to 1, teach them about the love of Jesus, and 2, try to get them connected to either Youth for Christ, youth ministry here, or whatever. It's like, that's a brilliant idea. How often do churches have the opportunity to go into organizations where people are and share the love of Jesus, right? And we can do that. And it's just as simple as buying basketballs and using that as our opportunity to let these kids know that there's a church in Rockford who sees them, who knows them, who cares about them. And so what Tyler did is he put together a list, and you'll see it at that table out there of suggested basketballs. And you say, well, why does it matter? Because we don't want one kid to get a really sweet, like Spalding NBA ball, and some other kid to get some crap Walmart Molten ball for $4. Okay? Because you're not going to feel loved if you get the rubber crap ball that you could punt across like the thing, right? You want a nice ball. So we're going to have 3 suggested basketball. I'm an idiot, by the way. It's true. I'm sorry. I apologize for myself. All right. So 3 suggested basketballs because we want to give them something nice. So we're going to do a basketball drive. And then the last thing, and this isn't my idea. I heard about another church in Texas doing this, and I thought, what a cool idea is there's an organization that buys back and pays off medical debt for individuals. And we have contacted this organization, and we have identified that in these 7 counties, there is $1.5 million of really bad medical debt for people in extreme poverty situations who cannot pay off this debt, okay? So some of you are like, are we raising $1.5 million? No, okay? That's a lot of money. This is what's crazy. If we raise $15,000, we can pay off all that debt. So for 1%, pennies on the dollar, we can buy back the debt. And here's what's cool. We raise the money, we give that money. They get a letter in the mail that says your debt's been forgiven. And you guys know a lot of medical debt, come on, that's not people's fault. I mean, it is what it is. And it's like this dark cloud hanging over their head. They will get a letter in the mail that says State Line Church in Rockford, Illinois, as a gift to you, a belated Christmas gift, because this will happen in like January, has decided to pay off your medical debt. It's forgiven. It's gone. Wow. And tell me that's not awesome, right? That we can do that? So that's it. If you want to give to that, you can like write a check and put medical debt in the thing, or I think online we created a giving fund. So those are our giving initiatives, right? It's all outward focus. It's about helping other people because what are we doing? We're going to leverage our stuff here for good works, great memories, and souls up there. If anyone wants or needs prayer, every week we have a team of people over at the Cross. We will see you next week for the third part of Would You Rather. Everyone, adios.